Hey everybody, and welcome back for yet another retro game and toy hunt. And this time we're back in Richmond, Indiana at Blast from the Past, which is an awesome little retro video game store. And we got a lot to go through today, so sit back, grab a snack, and let's see what they got going on here. So if Richmond, Indiana sounds familiar, we actually just did a video on Retro Jake's a couple of months ago or something like that, and that was actually a very similar store to what this is. You know, you've got your standard video game store and you've also got an arcade attached to it, which we'll get to here in a bit. But probably the craziest thing is that these two stores are literally just like a couple of blocks from each other. Like, this is in downtown Richmond, and it is saturated with retro gaming. Like, you can literally walk from one store to another. And, you know, we were originally in Retro Jake's, and they had mentioned this store over here. So we were like, oh, you know, it's just maybe like a smaller place or something. And when you actually come to the store and enter it, it kind of seems like it's just going to be like in a small room in an office building or something. But then you get down here and it's massive. Like, there's a ton of stuff in this place. So yeah, this was a nice surprise to come over and get to explore. And there is a lot to explore. And obviously we're starting off here with the racks and seeing what kind of games they got just sitting out. Of course, we got Chicana in the box because even though no one bought that back in the day, it is in literally every video game store I've ever been into, box copy and all. And of course, we've got that crappy cardboard box, Primal Rage. Man, I don't know if you guys collect in-box Genesis games, but I really feel for you because it seems like that would really be maddening to get to the point where all of these Genesis games had really nice hard plastic shell covers, and then in like the last couple of years of Genesis games, they're all just in those crappy cardboard boxes. Like, that must just be horrible to actually try and collect for. But yeah, pretty standard fare as far as the stuff for Genesis on racks. Over here we've got the massive wall of consoles, and I thought this was just a neat way to display this stuff. And of course, at the very end, we've got your Virtual Boy watching over its kingdom. Heading around the corner over here to the PlayStation library, and we got a copy of Rascal sitting here. Now, I was a huge fan of Psygnosis on the PlayStation because I thought those guys had that system on lockdown. Maybe more so than even like Konami and Namco. Like, everything Psygnosis put out that they developed on the PlayStation was like magic. They were just wizards with that console. And Rascal, even though no one remembers it and it's not that good of a game, it just looks amazing. You know, like, go look at some of those other Psygnosis PlayStation games like Colony Wars and stuff like that, Formula 1. Like, god damn, they're impressive for what they were able to do on that system. But yeah, that's my Psygnosis rant. I'll never get to talk about Psygnosis again. I genuinely feel like they should have gotten more attention on the PlayStation. But yeah, I think that's going to pretty much do it for what the PlayStation has on offer over here. Besides the pinnacle of any PlayStation library, Dukes of Hazzard 2. Yes, there was an original Dukes of Hazzard that got a sequel on the PlayStation. It's really something.
Oh my God! What's wrong with your face?
Turning the corner over here, we are going to check out the Wii U section because this is now the second store in Richmond, Indiana that probably has more Wii U games than I see at most other retro game stores in Indianapolis combined. Like, I don't know what it is with Richmond, Indiana, but they really liked Wii U. And I'm not sure if I said it in that other video, but one reason I just really like looking at Wii U stuff is because like 90% of the whole library is just common games. Like, there's very few on the system where you're just like, oh man, that's going to be a collector's item one day. That's just not the case with a lot of these Wii U games. Like, maybe someday way down the road, the Wii U will become like a huge collector's item and all of this stuff will jump up to astronomical prices, but that is not these days. Like, if you want a Wii U collection, you can go do that dead cheap. So something interesting happened when I was over here doing the NES wall. This was actually my second attempt to do this because the first time that I came over here and started getting video of the NES carts, this kid came around the side and was like, hey, what's going on? And, you know, I'm kind of just doing my own thing here, and I'm just like, well, you know, I'm just getting video. He's like, hey, this kid's like 8 or 9, so he's a small kid, you know. He's like, come over here. I want to show you what this will be good for your video. So I'm just like, okay. And I follow this kid over to where they've got the TVs with like the more modern games, you know, they got like PS4s hooked up to it and stuff. And he's playing some like farming game. It's not Farming Simulator. But anyway, he's like, all right, put this on video. So he gets in like this tractor. He does like a 360 and then he just runs it into a house and he starts laughing. And he's like, that'll be a really good video for someone. That's hilarious. And I wish I could have kind of got some video of it, but I was just laughing too hard. It was so random. No one ever comes up and speaks to me when I'm doing these videos. And for whatever reason, this 8-year-old kid really wanted me to come over and watch him do a 360 and run his tractor into a house for whatever reason. And I love that. Kids are wild. They're very much that meme of just like, you know, kids will yell at you for 30 minutes just to do a spin and then run away or something like that. And that's totally what that reminded me of. Anyway, back to the games, and we're going to get into the cases now to see where all the good stuff is, or what they've got on offer. Over here, we've got some Genesis games, and immediately I see the Ooze, which is something that that's a neat game. If you never played the Ooze, I think that's worth playing. Like, we actually did that for the podcast a while back, and it was very different. I can see why, like, no one has ever played it, because if you look on the back of the box, it doesn't look like anything. It looks like a crappy phone game or something like that. But no, it's actually really fun. Cool little, like, I don't know, action-y game where you control the Ooze and move it around and things like that. And you get bigger and smaller depending on, you know, your health and stuff like that. Neat idea. Very cool idea. Also, if you want a really nice Atari 2600 in-box collection, this place has you covered. There's a lot here. All right, let's circle over here to the PlayStation case, and let's all be amazed at just how expensive PlayStation 1 games have gotten in the past few years. Like, it is absolutely insane what it's like to collect for the PlayStation now. And this is something that really seemed to only happen in the last few years. I don't know if COVID is to blame for this or just nostalgia or whatever, but when Gex is $33, I think it's time to start asking yourself, do I really need that PlayStation collection? And obviously, it's not just this location. Just about every single video game store we go into these days, the PlayStation collection is out of control, like as far as pricing goes. And it's $129 for Buster Groove 2. I can kind of see that. That is fairly rare. But I mean, like the Silent Hill stuff all going for like over $100 these days. It's crazy. I don't get it. Like, you could go into a game store a few years ago and get Silent Hill 2 and Silent Hill 1 and Silent Hill 3, all of that stuff for like less than $60. These days, though, you are spending new console money just to have a collection of Silent Hill games, and that's something that I didn't think that I'd get to see in my lifetime anyway. Like, that's just insane. Anyway, let's stop being depressed over PlayStation games and start getting depressed over PSP games, because we got some UMDs over here, a nice collection of them, and that is something else that is going up and also going away in a lot of these stores. I'm noticing that the PSP collection is dwindling and what is left is going up in price. So if you want to do some PSP collecting, I suggest you get out there and start doing it, because it's only going to go up from here. And last but not least, as far as the cases go, is the NES and Super NES case. And again, they've got a nice collection of in-box games. I don't know what it is with Richmond, but just like Retro Jakes, they seem to take better care of their in-box games over here in Richmond than what they do in Indianapolis. Because, man, a lot of the stuff we find in boxes that are going for ridiculous amounts of money look like they have been dragged around and chewed up by various animals. Oh, and real quick, wanted to point out this Spike McFang back here for $230. One of my favorite Super NES games. If you have never played Spike McFang on the Super NES and you like weird Japanese stuff, then I suggest you go do that. It is one of those games that I'm shocked ever made it to the West. It is completely stupid in every single way, but it's a fun little action-adventure RPG, kind of in the vein of like Zelda, but it's just stupid. It's a stupid game, and I love it. Definitely check it out if you're into that kind of stuff. But yeah, overall, a lot of really cool stuff in these cases. Some neat stuff to poke around through. And there's even Darkwing Duck over here, so yeah. But the other half of Blast from the Past is obviously its arcade room, and this is a damn impressive arcade room here. Like, it is just filled with all of the what you'd expect. You know, you got your Dig Dugs, you got your Pac-Mans, you got all kinds of stuff like that. But then you've got things that I haven't even seen in cabinet form in America, like Street Fighter Alpha 3 here. Like, this is literally the first time I have ever seen Street Fighter Alpha 3 in cabinet form. And that's really cool. It's not an absolutely massive arcade. Like, I'd say it's more on the medium side, but the stuff they got in here is quality. Like, everything in here is just banger after banger. You know, you go from one to another, you're like, oh man, I want to play that. I remember that. I need to play that. It's just a great collection of stuff here. You know, of course, you got the Mortal Kombats, and if you got a Killer Instinct cabinet in your arcade, I'm going to take the time to film it because, God, I love that cabinet. They've also got a full tournament-style Marvel vs. Capcom 2 cabinet, and you can kind of see why this isn't in a lot of arcades, especially at this size. It is massive. And over here is another first. This is the first time I have ever seen Outrun 2 in arcade form. And Outrun 2 on the PSP and the PS2 is one of my favorite racing games ever, so that was super cool to see. But yeah, that's going to do it for this part of the arcade. There's actually more to it. Because if you get tired of this, there's like a cafeteria back here serving the finest pizza that you can get in Richmond. But if you go back here to the bathrooms and take a left, there's just a whole other arcade back here in like a dungeon area, kinda. It's a weird place to have this stuff, but they had some really good stuff back here too, like Superstars and, Double Dragon Tekken. They've even got a stand-up Afterburner cabinet down here, which I haven't seen since I was a kid. There it is. Super, super cool to see. But yeah, most of these are these smaller form factor cabinets, stuff that you see more in like the classic 80s arcades. And, true to form to a classic 80s arcade, there's just a bunch of arcade cabinets stuffed back here whenever you get done eating your pizza. And I can always appreciate that. Pizza and arcade games are two of my favorite things to put together. And they've even got tables back here where you can eat your pizza if you want to. And I think that's super cool. But I think that's going to do it for Blast from the Past. It goes without saying, if you are in or around Richmond, Indiana, of course, check out Retro Jake's, but also Blast from the Past is more than worth your time coming over here. There's definitely more to look at in terms of just the amount of games. They also do like D&D tabletop stuff as well. I didn't get any video of that because there are people around. But yeah, and the arcade itself is totally worth checking out. Just the amount of stuff that's in this place. Get you a slice of pizza at the cafeteria and go sit in the back room and play some Afterburner, because damn it, that's what life's all about. I can't think of a better way to spend your weekend than eating pizza and playing arcade games. I mean, that's just me. But real quick, want to thank everyone from Blast from the Past for letting me come in here and get this video. And also thanks to all of you for watching this. We will be back next time with yet another retro game and toy hunt.